first time. All right. All right. So good morning, good afternoon, depending on your place in the United States here. My name is Justine. If we haven't met before, I'm the Grand Vice President for Collegiates. Today, thank you for coming to PepTaLKS, first of all. I appreciate it. It is helpful, I promise. You'll be here to be able to ask questions of, I think at least two Grand Council members, myself and Robin. Other people were not necessarily able to join us, but they have sent their messages. And so I'll kind of be presenting on their behalf. We'll have, kind of the reason why I did this, one, it was requested last year. And two, I think for a lot of collegiate members, especially when I was a collegiate, I felt that Grand Council was pretty elusive. Nobody knew kind of like what they did. They just kind of were at convention. They seemed kind of there, but I didn't really know what their role was, especially in my connection to being a collegiate member. So that's kind of, I wanted to take the, curtain, open up the curtain a little bit behind what Grand Council is and who the people on Grand Council are, and kind of review that a little bit so that you have a better understanding for not only potential new members, but for yourself as a chapter member or chapter leader. And I apologize for the barking. Okay. So objectives today, by the end of the presentation, we'll have introduced members of Grand Council and reviewing their roles for Grand Council and headquarters. And then each of them kind of has some tips and tricks to give to you as a collegiate member that will hopefully help you in your own chapters. Let me make sure. Oh, here we go. We got one more. Oh gosh. All right. I have to pay attention and make sure I can cheese and present at the same time. Okay. So who is Grand Council? Kind of what I was alluding to before. I think as a collegiate member, I kind of thought this was Grand Council, or, add in just kind of, just total mystery and secrets of what Grand Council truly was. It's a little confusing, I think, for a lot of people. So who Grand Council really is, we are women. We're LKS alumni members. We're all pharmacists. Some of us are moms, some of us are wives. Luciana is currently working. So we are working women and members, and we are volunteers as well. So we are not paid members to anyone. We do this out of the goodness and kindness of our hearts and our desire to give back to LKS. So specifically when it comes to all the positions, we've got 7 different positions. So we've got Grand President, Vice President for Alumni, Vice President for Collegiate, Vice President for Development, Grand Secretary, Grand Treasurer, and then the immediate past Grand President. And we're going to go into each one of those and what that really entails, what their roles and responsibilities are. Although our pictures are beautiful, I just wanted to also put names to faces as well. So Christine or Chris Grass, you may or may not see emails from her. She usually does some welcome emails and kind of periodic emails throughout the year out to membership. We also have Luciana, who is our working woman today. So Luciana Lawson is our Grand Vice President for Alumni. Myself, Grand Vice President for Collegiates. Robin, who's attending today as well, Grand Vice President for Development. And then we've got Melissa O'Brien, who's our Grand Treasurer. Stephanie is our Grand Secretary. And then Sandy Mullen is our past Grand President. So she was the Grand President before Chris. And so she remains on Grand Council until somebody takes over for Chris, and then Chris would become the past Grand President. All right. So how somebody becomes on Grand Council. This is kind of relative because this is coming now for alumni that are looking to be on Grand Council. So there's a nominating committee made of 5 people. The chairperson is the immediate past Grand President, so that's Sandy. And then there's 4 other people. 2 of them are chosen at convention from the convention body. So they can be students, they can be alumni members, and they're voted on to be part of the nominating committee. And then the other 2 members are elected by that new Grand Council that's coming in at the time. So at that convention. So the last time we did this was 2000, I can't remember, 2020, I think, for the next 2 years. So we'll do this again at this coming convention, selecting a new nominating committee for the following 2 years. It's a confusing process. Poppy agrees. All right. So what the nominating committee does is they review all of their candidates that submit credentials. They interview them, and then they create a slate of candidates. So essentially like your ballot, and that goes to Grand Council to approve. And then ballots are sent out both by mail and electronically. And you may not know, but as collegiate chapters, you do have a vote. So there will be a time in the spring where all of the applicants and the people who are running for an office will put up online, or they'll do a social media blast or something about what their different points, why they should be elected. And it is up to you as a collegiate member in a collegiate chapter to review those and collectively decide on who you want to vote for and support. And that's due March 1st. All right, so we're going to get into each of the roles and responsibilities of the different positions. So some of these, you can kind of liken to the roles and responsibilities of the chapter presidents, but these are more like a lot larger for the betterment of the fraternity. So a lot of responsibilities on a lot of these members. So the Grand President is representing the fraternity as a whole, presiding over meetings for not only Grand Council meetings, but also at annual convention, and appoints all the standing and special committees. So at this upcoming convention, there will be a time where you can submit your name even as a student to be on a national committee, which is a great leadership time that you can kind of build up some of your leadership skills. And so she's the person that will divide and put people on different committees and determine who the committee chairs are. Also, as far as roles and responsibilities, so she's going to be signing, she's the ultimate signature on all fraternity accounts. She determines agendas and meeting times for Grand Council meetings with the assistance of members, and then attending all the functions that are directed by the convention body or Grand Council or chapters. So there have been times in the past where Grand President has attended different initiation ceremonies or visited different chapters, or attended conferences and things. Also, keeping in close touch with Grand Council officers and ensuring that each of us is kind of keeping up with our roles and responsibilities, and corresponding with chapters, members, and officers and others as needed. So I wanted to kind of put in a little blurb here about what it means to be a leader, and kind of being a leader as far as not only in life, but also for LKS. You're not always necessarily making the easiest of decisions, but you're making decisions that are for the betterment of the group and a way to move the chapters forward. It's really important as a leader to learn how to delegate. The earlier that you can do that, the better. You can't do it all. And I think as pharmacists or pharmacy students, we feel like we can do it all. It can easily lead to burnout. So it's important to learn the key ability of delegation as soon as you can. If you do run into, there are sometimes we've run into major challenges when it comes to, any kinds of, issues of harassment or hazing or things like that. If anything comes up that is major like that, you do not need to go at that alone. Please reach out to your advisors, your region supervisor, alumni, headquarters, Grand Council immediately, so that we can help and support you, so that everything comes out okay on the end. I also wanted to make sure that you understand that many people feel that they are incapable of being a chapter leader or holding an office position. And this could even be a chair of a committee. So it is important. I'm the queen, I feel like, of talking about imposter syndrome. So if you're not aware of imposter syndrome, this is kind of along those lines. But a lot of people don't feel that they can, that they're capable of holding these positions. So I find that it's really important to tell people when they're doing really well at something. So if somebody had a small role of helping out in an event and they did really well, tell them that they did really well. Tell them how this role and this responsibility and this example of what they just did would transition well to a different position and how they would be really great fit for that role. So setting your chapters up for success is really also succession planning and helping to plan for the future of your chapter as well. Okay. All right. So I've got the slides for Grand Vice President for Alumni. Luciana, do you want me to talk? Are you busy? I feel like you're counting. You want me to talk? Or are you good? I'll talk. Okay. All right. Sorry, guys. So the Grand Vice President for Alumni is essentially the person right below Grand President. So if something happened to Chris, Luciana would be the person that would take over for Grand Council meetings and annual convention. And if the position became vacant, the Grand Vice President for Alumni would be the one that takes over. Overall, generally has charge of the alumni program and all of the alumni chapters. Also serves as the editor for the alumni newsletter, plans and leads the alumni conference. So at convention, if you have or haven't been there, we have the collegiate conference to make sure that, we have some specific planning and, things planned out for the collegiate members, but there's simultaneously one going on for the alumni members as well. She'll also preside over the selection of the alumni at large delegates. So just like collegiate members have delegates, there are alumni members that aren't actually members of alumni chapters because maybe there isn't one in their area. And so those are considered alumni at large. And a certain number of them get a vote at convention as well. Also, she will manage alumni member relations, represent their interests, communicate regularly with chapters and members, reviewing and approving applications for alumni initiates, and then develop and update an alumni member orientation manual. So this is something similar to what we have for collegiates that we're working on for the alumni members. Also coordinating and formation of reactivation of alumni chapters is something that is also under the Grand Vice President for Alumni, working with both myself as well as the Grand Vice President of Development to help with the growth of alumni chapters and reviewing and approving alumni chapter submissions. So we've had a couple new alumni chapters that have been developed recently and working on some new ones as well. The other really kind of cool thing that we've had lately is new alumni initiates. So this could be a new member that wants to maybe join a local chapter, but didn't have an LKS chapter at their school, but they see the benefit of joining LKS as an alumni and want to join now. So that's something that you can do. You can also do this for faculty if you have an advisor that wants to join. We also have alumni at large. So I kind of mentioned that a little bit earlier, but it's a designation for members that are active, but they don't have a local chapter in their area. So they're considered an alumni at large. We don't have the ability though to have collegiate at large. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. So just to kind of walk you through, in case you have anybody that's, maybe you have a preceptor or a best friend that went to a different school of pharmacy that really, as you're graduating or, going along and things, sees how much you love LKS and what it brings to you and wants to join, and they happen to be an alumni member. They just have to have graduated from a college or school of pharmacy, and they can't be in a different professional pharmacy fraternity. They have to complete an application and then meet with the Grand Vice President for Alumni. We'll then review their application to approve it by Grand Council. They also will go through new member orientation because it is really important that we make sure that, my apologies. We make sure that they have gone through all the information, know all the ins and outs of the LKS, just like you do as a collegiate member. and then they'll be initiated as a alumni member of LKS. So kind of with that being said, if you have any leads, if you know of anybody that either wants to start become an alumni member, or if you're at your chapter, you don't have a alumni chapter, if you have a group of at least 6 graduating P4s or recently graduated members that are really gung-ho and want to stick together and develop a an alumni chapter, reach out to Luciana, and we can start that process of development of an alumni network. It's great. I feel like for chapters that have alumni members, it's kind of a great bank of people to call on for assistance, not only for questions, but for speakers. If you needed a preceptor for any kind of professional event or something like that, you have that kind of there as a quick and easy bank, so you're not always relying on your advisors. All right. So Grand Vice President for Collegiates serves as a coordinator for region supervisors and all their activities, facilitates communication from the fraternity and Grand Council to the region supervisors. And then I also do training for the region supervisors at convention or right before or after convention, and help to coordinate the collegiate workshop or collegiate convention, and help with convention planning. Also, I'm regularly in communication with the region supervisors as well as collegiate chapters. So if you're a secretary or president that's sending me your minutes, you'll probably see my responses here and there. Leading the collegiate conference at convention, develop and maintain guidelines and policies and procedures relating to membership and orientation. Also region supervisor visits. It's typically, I know some of you may have had one already or have one planned. It's typically something that's done in person, which is kind of one of my favorite things when I was a region supervisor. But because of COVID and everything that's gone on, we've made them virtual for the time being. So that's kind of something that may change in the future. You may have a different experience with, or have had a different experience in the past. Other things, I ensure that collegiate chapter of the year scoring is completed for the time, by the time of convention, and other collegiate awards. I serve as the editor of Links, so that's kind of our collegiate newsletter. And then I also chair the collegiate committee, which is a group of collegiate members that has different kinds of tasks and things that they're told that we kind of need their assistance with, as far as from Grand Council's perspective. All right, so I kind of wanted to just go through a few of the things if you haven't been made aware of new initiatives and things. I'm kind of in charge, obviously, of the development of program for collegiates. So there's been a lot of new programs and initiatives that we've rolled out, a lot of them through PepTaLKS. And a lot of them through emails. So if you're not reading your official, like going through your official LKS officer email addresses, you may be missing a lot of information. So for instance, last year we introduced the new chapter awards, which came for the first half of them came for 2021, and we'll be introducing the second half of them for this year. So that's something to look forward to. We also have the new chapter responsibilities document that helps kind of outline the entire year and everything that comes due throughout the year and what you need to accomplish. Last year, we also started with strategic operating plans and SMART goals to help guide chapters, and then updating and starting with our new member orientation guides. A couple messages that I kind of want to just make sure it kind of goes far and wide. Make sure to come to PepTaLKS, or at least review the recordings if you can't attend. The quizzes that happen afterwards will also help to solidify your knowledge. And then you should be having, if you're a chapter leader, you should be having monthly region supervisor calls. So attending those is going to be a great way to not only connect with the other chapters in your region and ask questions, but the region supervisor will also be giving you a lot of information to help guide your chapter as well. But the main thing is, as the Grand Vice President for collegiates, I'm here for you, as well as the region supervisors are here for you. When you have questions, it's always best to go first to your region supervisor, and then often they will contact me. And if I don't know, I go to headquarters. But kind of the best chain of contact there. You can also use the other chapters in your region. I think that's what kind of has been very helpful about these monthly phone calls with region supervisors, is that a lot of chapters have gotten into a little bit closer contact than they have been in the past. And if you are a chapter president, you also have the access to the GroupMe chat. And so you can also throw in questions there that Erin and I will see, or that maybe another chapter will see as well, and help with answering. All right. So next I've got Grand Vice President for Development. So Robin, would you like to speak?
Yeah. So my name is Robin Nading. I'm your current Grand Vice President for Development. I coordinate the expansion efforts of the fraternity. I will sometimes pursue sponsorships and endowments for the fraternity, and then also try to develop corporate relationships, which can help us with our convention or just general networking. Just so that you guys are aware, new chapter requirements. The chapter needs to be at an ACPE accredited college. You need 6 charter members, which includes a president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer, which is elected from the charter membership. You need at least 1 fraternity advisor that's an LKS member. You need to submit your bylaws, petition to the Grand Council that you would like to be a new chapter, and then you have to operate as a club for 6 weeks, which is something that was voted upon on our last convention, and it's new to us now. Before you had to be a club for a year, but now it has a more expedited process, especially since some chapters may be started by current LKS members, thus they don't need to operate for a full year. So for new alumni chapters, you still also need 6 charter members. You submit your bylaws and you petition the Grand Council. Something that is different for alumni chapters is that it does not need to be named after a Greek letter. It can be named after a major metropolitan area, such as the New York City alumni chapter, but it does end up having a Greek letter designation if one is created. So we're always looking for new leads where LKS does not have active chapters. So if you have friends at other colleges of pharmacy that don't have an active LKS chapter but are interested in starting one, let us know. You can reach out to me. My email is below. You can also find me on social media at just Robin Nading. We currently have 1 chapter that may be starting, but we'll see. They're not official yet, so I don't want to spoil the surprise. But if you have anything, let me know.
Awesome. Thank you. The other thing I wanted to mention is, can you guys hear me? I feel like I'm hearing weird sounds. Okay. Is if you have students, we've been kidding this a handful of times this year, is that if you have students that have transferred out, they may still want to be in LKS. And so that might be a great way for us to connect and start a new chapter. So don't let them go if they want to, just because they are moving away doesn't necessarily mean that they have to leave LKS. We can, if they're really interested, we can start a new chapter with them. All right, I'm going to pause here because that was a lot. I just wanted to check in, see if anybody has any burning questions. You can throw it in the chat or speak, either way. Nothing burning. Okay. All right. All right. So we're going to continue. We're going to move on to Grand Secretary. So our Grand Secretary records and distributes minutes of the business that happens at Grand Council meetings as well as convention, and also make sure to do all the correspondence for the fraternity, distributes notices to membership, and then circulates all petitions presented to Grand Council. Also receives votes as well, mostly at convention. Stephanie kind of wanted to pass on a couple things, some suggestions for secretaries themselves. So she said when taking minutes at a meeting, it's really important to have an agenda. And she takes the agenda and then formats the document with 1 or 2 bullet points underneath as a template. And there may be more or less, but at least it's a good place to start. Also, she wanted to let you know that she felt like when taking minutes, this is the exact same thing. So this is how important it is. She says it twice. Just kidding. I just put it in there twice. She also said that when a motion is made, you need the name of the sister that made the motion, and it needs to be seconded, but you don't need to have the name of the person that seconded, just that the motion was seconded. The motions are to be easily distinguishable in the minutes. So she puts it on its own line in bold and italics and have it extend all the way across the line with no indents. So just kind of wanted to throw that out there. Most of the minutes I would say that I see from chapters are pretty informal. So probably not as formal as what Stephanie's putting on there, but always a good way to practice. All right, Grand Treasurer. So we have, I'm sorry. Grand Treasurer is in charge of all funds of the fraternity and supervises all the deposits of funds, also collects dues and supervises disbursement. So money back to you, for instance, after you attend convention, your delegate fee and travel reimbursement. Also ensures that a review of the account goes through a certified public accountant and a report is submitted every year. She also provides oversights of investments and records of them, oversees all the financial transactions performed by headquarters staffs and audits them quarterly, and then make sure that Grand Council is kept informed of the fraternity financial status quarterly as well. Also, we'll make sure, I don't know if you know, but we have to make sure that all the IRS filing is done, and then corresponds with chapter treasurers as needed, and will assist them as needed as well. Couple things from Melissa, who couldn't be here as well. She wanted to let you know that budgeting is cool. Like, make a budget for your chapter. Also spend your money if you have a lot of it. Reevaluate the amount, not the amount, the amount of money that you're bringing in. So maybe your chapter dues are too high, or maybe they're too low. Can you donate more to Project Hope or to the Educational Trust? Can you sponsor members to go to convention, or can you buy pizza at the next chapter meetings, or can you do a round of free t-shirts or something like that? Or maybe can you cut chapter dues next year if you're collecting too much every year? By budgeting and knowing what your expenses are going to be, you're going to be able to figure out if you can cut dues or need to increase dues every year. Pardon me as I'm walking. So fundraising is also important, not only for our philanthropy, but you can also raise money for your chapter to attend convention or do an offsite retreat. So use the funds. If you worked hard to collect your funds, you should use them. If you don't, somebody else will in a couple years from now. So it's important that if you worked hard to get them, you should use them. You could also budget in. I know a couple chapters put in their budget their donations to Project Hope and the Educational Trust. So that's another option that you could do to make sure that you remember and that you have a specific amount that you want to donate every year. This is technically a message from me, but I'm saying it's from Melissa because it kind of is a Grand Treasurer thing. But I wanted to take this time to also talk a little bit about affinity vendors and apparel sales and things like that when you're making these kinds of agreements with different kinds of companies to sell things maybe for fundraising for your chapter. We have a list of vendors through a program called Affinity. They're licensed vendors who have obtained the rights to offer LKS official merchandise. So it means they're going to stick to our color palette and they're not going to put LKS on something inappropriate. What I mean by that is they're not going to make like hot pink LKS shot glasses. So they know what we will approve of and what we won't approve of. They pay a fee to be on this list and to be an official vendor. And in turn, we also get a portion of the sales. So it also helps LKS as well. So we really need to be sticking to these vendors. And I'm seeing a lot of people that I don't think know about this. Sometimes it's a little bit hard to catch on to and to really understand. It took me a while, to be honest. So if you go onto the Shop LKS page down towards the bottom where I have that arrow, it has the licensed vendor stores. I think in the next slide, I think it says there's about 38 vendors at this time. So the blue and gold triangle is the blue and gold boutique sells LKS apparel that, you can make, kind of basic things. But if you want, I know Custom Ink is listed as an Affinity vendor, a couple other places. And it's not just t-shirt sales. There's other things that you can get on there as well. So if you could be working with a company that's local to your area, and you really want to see if they'll become an official vendor. Have them contact LKS through headquarters, through the email. That's what I thought. We have 38 vendors. And then the nice thing about if they become even if they're a local person for you and they become an official vendor, they could get orders from other chapters as well, not just from you. And I just wanted to remind you of the color palette too for the bottom. So those are our official colors. If you're making apparel, you need to stick within those colors. It also includes like white, gray, and black. All right. So immediate past Grand President serves as an advisor to Grand Council and assists in special projects. Also serves as the chairperson of the nominating committee, which we talked about earlier, and the chairperson for convention. So past Grand President works with headquarters and identifies potential locations and develops schedule of events, also develops the theme and the logo, speakers, as well as the ACPE information for who getting CEs to qualify as CEs. So a little bit from Sandy, who is in Mexico at the moment, so she could not be with us. But attending convention is a vital part of what makes LKS a sisterhood. As a member, you have an opportunity to learn about the fraternity and any new initiatives that will be occurring. And the best part that I always thought as a collegiate was the ability to interact with other collegiates and other chapters, and then meet alumni that have excelled in different areas of pharmacy. So developing that networking skill a little bit more. And bonus, you get to maybe explore a city that you've never been to before. So I know I talked about this the previous pep talks, but plan on coming to convention. Hopefully it will be in person. Start the planning now. It is an expensive journey versus virtual convention, which was not. It's the time to start chapter fundraising for convention to help offset costs. You can ask alumni, ask your school for funding. And if you have a lot in your bank accounts, consider sponsoring a new member to attend. All right. I'm going to pause here again, because I know there are burning questions. I don't want you to have to wait for the end. I'm being facetious, but any burning questions? Okay. All right, I'll keep going. Not too much more, friends. All right, before we kind of wrap up with everything about Grand Council, I could not mention headquarters. So to me, headquarters was also very elusive. When I was a collegiate member, I didn't really understand who was there, what they were doing, and how it all, who's answering the phone, how many people are there, etc. Headquarters, pardon me, headquarters is in Greenfield, Wisconsin. And it is the Rogallas. So it is Joan Rogalla and her daughter, Erin. Erin is the Director of Member Services. So pretty much she's the one to go to if you've exhausted all your other resources and you don't know how to answer a question. Joan handles and the more higher level things like the financial and legal, educational trust stuff. Everything should go through Erin first and then to Joan if need be. Okay, so that's when you're coming for tough questions, it should be going region supervisor, GVPC, well, advisors, region supervisors, GVPC, then Erin and Joan. All right, so headquarters staff helps with the day-to-day operations that go on behind the scenes, and they are employed by LKS. So I mentioned earlier that Grand Council was a volunteer position, but headquarters staff is employed by Lambda Kappa Sigma. They are the headquarters email address and the phone number. So if you're calling the LKS phone number, that's who's answering. They also coordinate everything with the website. This is kind of a little bit of a joke, but not really. Like, this is all the responsibilities. I'm not going to read this all. They do a lot, but they are there 40 hours a week to be able to assist with these kinds of things. So they're the ones that are doing a lot of the behind the scenes administrative tasks and things like that. All right, so that's kind of all I have as far as Grand Council goes. I did want to do a couple other memos, pep talks. The information, as you know, is important. This one was a little dry, my apologies. But we will do a quiz after this. So it'll be sent out probably tomorrow, and it'll be open for about a week. The scores will go to chapter of the year scoring. So make sure to complete that within the week. You can do it as a group, but there's only one submission per chapter. And then I also wanted to remind you to make sure you're following LKS on all the social media pages, because a lot of information comes out of there as well. And then just to kind of summarize, we introduced our Grand Council members, HQ members, reviewed their roles and responsibilities, and went through some tips and tricks that they have for you as a collegiate member and officers in your own chapters. Last reminder is that November's Pep Talks, which is November 6th, is going to be a new member mixer. So this is going to be when we want to send your potential new members, your new members, anyone going through the orientation process or newly initiated. And we're going to have some fun stuff. And you can come too as a current member, just so we can show new members what it's like to be a current member. We'll have some alumni in there too. All right. All right, so 40 minutes. My dog is eating a rug. What questions do you have for me? What kind of pharmacy practice sites do Grand Council members practice in? That's a great question, Robin. Robin, do you want to mention where you practice?
Yeah, I'll do mine. I work for Optum RX, which is part of United Health Group. So it would be managed care, and I do prior authorizations. Other people, I believe Chris, our grand president, is a hospital pharmacist. If you guys noticed that our grand vice president for alumni, Luciana, was retail. Let's see, grand secretary, Stephanie does retail, right? Let's see, grand treasurer, Melissa.
She's a manager. She's in management.
Management.
Mm-hmm. Did you mention me?
No, I figured you could do you.
I'm in ambulatory care, working in a kidney transplant clinic. And you mentioned Sandy. Sandy is a psychiatric pharmacist and RPD for a PGY2 psych program. Oh, Melissa's a PGY2 RPD too, or one. She's an RPD as well. All right. Perfect. Well, apparently that is time. I won't keep you guys any longer. I appreciate you all being here. And we will see you next time. Have a great day. No problem, Morgan. Thank you.